actually start in 1991 as the Soviet Union itself began its final hurdle toward collapse and disintegration. While this was taking place, the U.S., as the historical record makes very clear, was very much caught off guard. The George H.W. Bush administration spent months during that year trying to find some kind of new strategy as it pertains to what was then this splintering superpower in the Soviet Union. And the course that Washington ended up choosing was simple. It chose to prioritize relations with Moscow and prevent the disintegration of the Soviet Empire and eventually Russia from going too far. And that meant, in many cases, simply sitting on our hands. Instead of offering diplomatic or even material support to new countries, new nations, declaring independence, declaring sovereignty from Moscow's empire, the U.S. actively worked to prevent certain pro-sovereignty movements from succeeding. Think of Bush's infamous Chicken Kiev speech in 1991, where he publicly criticized Ukrainian separatists for trying to break away from Moscow, which unfortunately has not aged very well whatsoever. And there was a logic to all of this. After all, this was a country in the Soviet Union that was a country with a significant nuclear arsenal. And no one wanted that arsenal to fall into the wrong hands. And the West, and the U.S. especially, perhaps understandably, thought at the time that so long as Russia transitioned into a market economy and held free and fair elections, that actual borders and boundaries wouldn't necessarily matter quite so much. And again, you can see the logic to this argument. This was all taking place amidst a far broader ignorance in the West, and again, especially in the United States of America, of the history of Russian imperialism and Russian colonization writ large, and of understanding that Russia continues to oversee what is in many ways a traditional European empire, only that instead of colonizing nations and peoples overseas, it instead colonized nations and peoples over land. That is to say, Russia didn't create a transoceanic empire of colonized nations, but a transcontinental empire of colonized nations.